Jim, it was a crusade for Prince Harry, but has the Crusader been crushed or the sun won't rise again? Which is it in your view? Good morning.
Well, I think recently as last week, you mentioned that he was saying that he wouldn't settle, and now he has. He's capitulated to some degree. But I think if he really wants to emerge as the victor or the winner of this, and to really raise his, let's be honest, his reputation hasn't done well the last few years.
No, I don't think it has, in fairness,
I
sadly.
think if he was to say, OK, he doesn't have to disclose the amount, but if he said every single penny that I was given in that settlement, I'd put it into charity, it could go. He was seen, I think, last week with his wife out, trying to comfort victims of these recent fires that they've had over there.
Yep.
And I think if he was to raise his reputation both at home and in the US, he ought to, or not ought to, it's up to him what he does, but does he really need the money? I guess you've got to ask yourself. Probably not. I think he's left quite well off after his mother,
yes, of course.
Passed away. So
yeah.
I think if he was to give it to charity, every single penny, I think, rather than just...
Okay, I think that's a really cogent argument. Lastly, if he doesn't do that, if he decides to do with the money whatever he sees fit, buy a house, how does he emerge from this in your book, Jim, lastly?
Not as well. I think I would say, he's talked the talk up until now, but he's still capitulated. So I think give the money to charity, whether it's the games that he supports with the Invictus.
Oh, that's a good idea. Yeah, or some victims' charities as well, possibly.
It's just frustrating to see hear right-wing voices criticise him when things go wrong. But meanwhile, we had an 18-year-old boy who, is dealing with illegal press intrusion throughout all that time. He lost his mum, dealing with all of that. I mean, can you not bring yourself, in general, to just say something positive about the poor man?
I've met him. I think he's a tremendous bloke, yeah. I'm just asking, when he said that his was a crusade and he was the only one still standing as recently as a month ago, why he's decided not to take it further. Because he wanted to change, I want to get it right, he wanted to change the media landscape, okay? Well, he's not. All right, he's forced an admission and a considerable amount of money from news group coffers, I get that. And they have admitted to criminal behaviour or unlawful activity, let's be careful.
That is pretty big. Nick, that's pretty big.
Sir,
yeah.
That's not changing the media landscape, is
it? Okay, but I'm with you, fine. So he's not achieved that, but no. I'm just trying to understand, why is that the focus? If this were your son or my son, we would all be like, well done, young man.
Is it worth it, though? To wreck your relationship with your brother, is it worth it?
Depends. I mean, if he felt like the integrity of him, making this point was more important than it's a shame. Let's be honest. But I don't want to.
Oh, the whole thing is a tragedy that the two brothers have fallen out, particularly as they hopefully comforted each other through the loss of their mother. The behaviour by the son, and I say again, I wasn't there at the time, but it's unlawful. It's appalling, and the fact they've had to pay out this money and £1 billion in other settlements is grotesque. So I think it's fair to say, has he actually achieved what he wanted to achieve? Without being seen as critical, it's just a question, Olu.
It's a question, but I think your question, I bet you some of the next presenters, their question will be, why did the son get away with this? Why has the son done this?
Well, I don't think... let's hope it is. But I don't think they did get away with it. Oh, I see. You're saying some journalists should go to jail, I imagine, is what you're suggesting. Well, for a lot of people, of course, the fact that the boss... Rupert Murdoch did not appear in court is a missed opportunity, but again missed by the Duke of Sussex, who decided to take up his stumps.
What really makes me struggle is, personally, on a very personal level, is the second question about the way that Harry and Meghan have been treated. And there are obvious reasons. There's the class thing, there's the race thing, 100% the race thing. I just don't get it. Why? What is it that? Why do people? Surely somebody. I don't buy newspapers. I get my news from people like you and off the television.
Yes.
But I understand you use the papers. They're your initial researchers because that's what people are reading. That's what they want to hear being talked about. But who cares? About this stuff. And then the fantastic example was that you gave was that they reported the flowers at the wedding, the bridesmaids' flowers, and the way that was reported, I was like, I understand that we can stamp down on papers and say, right, stick to the facts, but that's not about a factual thing. They're using facts, but it's their interpretation of those facts that they get away with it. And I don't understand why they do it.
Well, do you understand now?
Do you?
I mean, I appreciate that you don't read these outlets, read these papers, but I can with a very cursory Google, I can find a claim by a retired commanding officer, and this is reported by the BBC, accusing Prince Harry of having turned against his military family after having trashed his birth family. And the Daily, that's the BBC reporting that because of the ecosystem that's being created. So when you say you don't understand, do you understand now, or do you see some sense in my cautious theory that they've created an ecosystem in which the likelihood of pursuit, investigation, and possible prosecution has been reduced to about as low a level as the guilty people could possibly hope?
Yeah, I understand that, and I understand how it's happened, but I don't understand that senior officer to turn around and say that Harry's turned his back on his military family. I'm in touch. I left the military in 1994, and that's 30 years ago. And I speak to the guys via social media, a little group that we've got, or a couple of groups, on a daily basis. And I know in my heart that he's in touch with guys who he served with.
And you see it with the Invictus Games as well. You see his commitment to the cause of personnel, comrades injured in the military.
Well, I was delighted when I first came across the news yesterday. Guilty pleasure, flicked Mail Online open, saw the news. No, actually, I think I heard it on your programme, and then I flicked open the Mail Online to see what the commentators were saying. And to a man, all the commentators on the article were slagging off Harry and Meghan and saying he said he wouldn't settle, and now he's settled, and writing off what I heard of as an absolutely fabulous victory against the Murdoch press. And the reason I think it matters, and the reason I would like to see it taken very seriously in this country, not alone by the police, but potentially also by Parliament and Leveson too, is that Murdoch and his ilk demonstrate a complete absence of integrity in the British press. And they've made it their money-making activity to make the news rather than
or just 50% money making, 50% influence peddling. Because quite a lot of these organs lose money, so it's as much about having the ear of prime ministers and having power over politics as it is about the bottom line. You see that on both sides of the Atlantic, of course.
The reason I mentioned money making is I recall some of the conversations that went on when Murdoch was up against his own children in California trying to rearrange the inheritance path that was laid down in the trust. And the reason he expressed that he wanted to ensure that Lachlan would be at the head of news group was to ensure a more right-wing editorial style because it made more money for the group. So it's not... I mean, that's the core motivation.
I'm just wondering how many people have just heard that for the first time. Yes, you're absolutely right. It came out in court. The reason why he wants to anoint one child over all of the others is because that child has bought in either to the ideology or to the economic reality that there's more money in promoting far-right adjacent rhetoric, as Fox News has taught them, than there is in any other mode of journalism in this in this
so
world.
It's not actually, therefore, any longer journalism, as I learned what journalism was much earlier in my life. It's a completely different product altogether. And I fear that we're absolutely missing good quality journalism in the UK. And I think we therefore do need the essential civic organs and the organs of state to address that issue, because otherwise so many people, like those people reading the Daily Mail Online yesterday and commenting, are just being turned into consumers of this.
And of course, there'll be social media will be full of similar bilge and quite possibly worse. And broadcasters will be joining in as well. Always worth checking which people offering an opinion in the public space have worked for Rupert Murdoch and for how long, and whether or not relations remain warm. But here's a question, Alison. In the context of media does it matter? Because the newspapers are dying. They won't be engaging in this kind of behaviour anymore. I will not be surprised, and Private Eye's very good on this week, if Harry and his wife now get a much easier ride from certainly the Murdoch titles. The case against the Mail, of course, is still outstanding. But going after them for the unlawful activity doesn't matter, because they are not the force they were when they did it. You know, look at Twitter now. Twitter, you can find anything on Twitter. You can find footage on Twitter of people waving at their grandmas, and that being cited as evidence that they do Hitler salutes as well. And Elon Musk is. So do you see what I mean? There are somewhat romantic idea of what the media represents and should be can be simultaneously true and redundant.
And also potentially described as death by 1,000 cuts, death of public decency, death of integrity, death of standards, really worth following in a country that does appear to be in a declining state.
Welcome to C News, your go-to channel for the latest headlines, biggest controversies, and hottest debates. From royal showdowns to political drama, we bring you the stories that matter, with no-nonsense analysis and straight-talking discussions. If you love staying ahead of the news and hearing what people really think, hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications. Join the conversation and never miss a breaking story. LBC callers nearly agree. Prince Harry's son showdown ends in a settlement. In a rare moment of near unity, LBC callers weigh in on Prince Harry's latest legal battle, this time with the Sun's publishers. The Duke has settled his case, but does that mean victory, defeat, or just another chapter in his ongoing media war? Tune in for all the reactions, hot takes, and the fallout from this latest royal courtroom drama.